Hello, BookTube. Today I want to talk about another book that transformed me. Now, today, okay, as you probably notice, I don't have a shirt because earlier my furnace went out, and by went out, I mean it wouldn't stop running. So it was like 90 degrees in here. So it's pretty hot in here. So you'll forgive. Hey, if Bert Kreischer can do it, Bert Kreischer can get up on stage and take off his shirt, I should be allowed the same liberty, right? Okay, with that out of the way, so I don't go on at length, I want to talk about The Prince by Machiavelli. Now, why was this book so important to me? Well, I'm going to have to drone on a little bit about my history because when I encountered it is important. I have always been very suspicious of authority, not authority in the sense of authoritative sources, right? Like if there's a biologist who is talking about biology, that's fine. Like I'm gonna, or there's like an astrophysicist. Well, I don't know astrophysics, but more political authority or just unearned authority is just like, well, why does this person get the right to tell me what to do? And I've always been suspicious of institutions. And part of that stems from an early age. So I grew up in the ghetto. And at an early age, I knew the lies that society told me. Society would tell me one thing, but then treat me a different way. And not just me, but, you know, anybody in my predicament, in not my predicament, yeah, I guess predicament, anybody in my predicament. And so I saw the hollowness of slogans, the hollowness of the idealism of all people are created equal and we treat everybody equally. And I'm thinking, no, I saw a cop throw a beat down on some guy. Like, no, I've seen like rich people get away with crimes, and you know Jerome down the way slinging a dime bag getting like 10 years. So it never really matched up, right? For me, the words and sort of the American kind of ideals that we have rang hollow to me from a very early age. Not to mention, I found a lot of the like the rituals that we would do in school, which I would call religious. The whole saluting the flag. I thought, why are we saluting a flag? Like, why? Like, why is this part of education that we stand up and we pledge allegiance to a flag? I thought, if anything, you should be pledging an allegiance to people or like the government, but a fucking piece of cloth? It never made sense to me. It never made sense to me. And then it was either late high school or early college. I got The Prince. I was told, oh, that's an evil book. That's stay away from that. So naturally, I wanted to read it because I'm like, well, if authority figures are telling me it's bad, it's got to be good. And I loved it. Now, at that time, I didn't get all of the references to the Medici family, and I didn't have the historical context. I learned that later. I learned more about Machiavelli's life and whatnot. But at the time, what I loved, absolutely loved, was he presented a kind of an unvarnished, mask tore off version of government and institutions. Like, I'll never forget the part where he talks about effective truth, that the way to figure out what somebody really believes is to ignore what they say and focus on their actions. And he used the Catholic Church at the time, who would preach piety and reverence and all of that. But what they were actually doing was, engaging in political control of things, and conflict to gain access to resources. And so what they were really about, Machiavelli contends, is, well, they're about money, control, and acquisition of resources. That's what they're really about. They're not about piety and all of those highfalutin ideas. That's what they say, but their actions betray that. So what they are really about, what they really believe, is their actions. And that, I don't want to say blew my mind, but things fell into place. Because then I started to think, okay, well, this person is preaching this, or this person is saying this, but what they do is the opposite. So, upon reflection, I learned you can lie with words, but actions never lie. They never lie. A con man, a charlatan, a grifter, their currency, how they trick people, is language. They're charismatic. It's an almost entirely linguistic endeavor. Almost. I mean, yeah, they've got charisma and they can sort of, wear suits or whatever to give off an air of authority. But how they sell you on the con, how they sell you on the grift, how they steal your fucking money, or get you to hand it over voluntarily, is by linguistic trickery. But if you look at the actions, if you forget the flowery language, the nice language, in which they come to you as a friend and then they stab you in the back. But if you look at their actions, you focus strictly on what they do, you won't be fooled, or it'll be very hard to be to get fooled. So that was one of the big takeaways. And of course, the Prince is renowned for its brutal kind of truths, right? Because it's supposed to be a guidebook for rulers, right? Kings, queens, etc. Like, that's one interpretation of it. I know that there's another interpretation that it was kind of satire. I mean, I don't know. I'm not a Machiavelli scholar, but I do know that there's those two dominant interpretations. One as this kind of ruthless guidebook for how to gain and maintain power at all costs. And the other is a kind of satire of that. Now, that's not really applicable to most of us, right? Most of us, if we're sane, are not going to go into politics, right? We leave that to the deranged psychopaths that we already have. And we hope that they do good for us, right? We hope that their inner deficiencies, which lead them to want to manage other people, that somehow their psychopathy can be channeled to give us something good. Right now, zero faith in that. But it gives a lot of practical advice just for the everyday person, too. Talking about revenge, right? Just a brutally talking about how, if damage must be done to a person, it must be so severe as to not, so that you don't fear retribution. Um, better to be feared than better to be feared than loved. Again, brutal. I would say truths, although the feared and loved one is, I don't know. This is probably going to be a shorter video than the ones that I usually do. But it helped me make sense, and it helped me kind of navigate. The book helped me navigate the social world where I had faltered before. I'd wondered, why did I make these different missteps? And once Machiavelli showed me the darker underpinnings of human beings, the dark side of human beings, and the dark side of institutions, which of course stem from human beings, right? They didn't just fall out of a coconut tree. I mean, obviously, we as a species made them. It helped me, it sort of shattered any illusions that I might have of not wanting a better world, but understanding how current institutions operate and how to work within them, I suppose. So I guess the lesson that I took was, I guess you can read The Prince, and if you're a kind of narcissist or sociopath, you can use that book as a tool for evil, right? To do harm to others. But you can also view it as a tool to effectively get what you want while also avoiding pitfalls. Which doesn't mean you have to go around manipulating people. It doesn't mean you have to go around being an asshole. But, I mean, one thing that Machiavelli taught me was, upon reflection, was not everybody operates on my moral code. Not everybody operates on the belief that all people ought to be treated equally, that all people are deserving of bodily autonomy, that we ought to do what we can to maximize the well-being for all people, etc., etc. And that if you operate on that baseline, that you think that everybody's moral core is the same as yours, you're going to crash into and be taken advantage of by sociopaths. If you want to defeat a wolf, you got to think like a wolf. You can't think like a rabbit. You know? Okay, so hopefully this video wasn't too rambly, but this book answered a lot of questions that I had. It gave me a framework for understanding the world. And I guess maybe to end is, I'm wired in a kind of, I'm wired more cynically, to view situations and institutions more cynically. And Machiavelli is very cynical in The Prince. And so it was kind of a natural fit for me. Okay, that's what I've got for you. I hope you're all staying, safe and sane in these wild times. And yeah, until next time, thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.